Well, this is it. This is the end of Goodnight Punpun. I, it's sad. It's really sad. But I have a major problem that the mangaka's dedication to a specific way of presenting the main character begins in volume 1, quite interesting, and it has a quite unique visual expression and style that if you go to YouTube and type Goodnight Punpun, you will see lavish videos, amazingly edited, where you're seeing all these cool panels and all these cool effects that they're doing from the manga that makes it look so good. But then by the time the end of the manga comes, it's almost like the author fucking gave up. And I know I've never seen anyone comment on this. Many of the people who like this manga, I've never seen a single person comment on this. I get that when Punpun's talking and the panels are all black and it's just his text, it's meant to represent something. I understand it probably represents his depression, probably represents getting older and not being as imaginative, not having as hopeful thoughts or views on the world, things like that. But I don't totally buy into that, because the god character was telling Punpun these horrible thoughts about killing people and things like that when he was younger, and then as he gets older, he doesn't have any internal thoughts, really, if anything. He's just the most boring person imaginable. He has nothing guiding him. But we come to find out from the last fucking volume, or was it in this one? No, it's in this one. We come to find out in this one that Punpun actually was doing things during the story. We just didn't get to see any of those things because the author thought it would be better to have us watch or read fucking hundreds of pages of this stupid, god-awful Pegasus Club, and every single, the first like 30 pages of volume 7 are dedicated to all of them blowing up in a building, and thank fucking God, because I hate those characters. They're so boring, they're uninteresting, they're a waste of time. I read online that Inio Asano said that those characters were like him shitting on shonen battle mangas, which is fucking ironic, because you know what the one thing a shonen battle manga has on Goodnight Punpun? That's a fucking plot. There's something to tune in for. The only reason I finished this manga is because I wanted to see something happen. There's no plot here. In the beginning, they tease a plot. This is the worst kind of writing. This is Haruhi levels of writing. And Haruhi, I know I'm going to get, if anyone watches this that isn't already, doesn't know me personally, I fucking hate Haruhi. I think Haruhi is great for moments. There are good moments. The movie's probably great. I haven't seen it. Haruhi has two amazing moments in the anime. One is the first 5-episode arc, if you're watching it in chronological order, and 2 is like the second to last episode where they're having the school cultural festival, and Haruhi plays that song, like God Knows or something, where it's basically like her expressing her feelings to Kyon. But then they wash all that away because she was just a fill-in. She didn't write any lyrics. She was just there to like help some seniors at school, which is fucking stupid. But that moment almost saved the whole anime for me to being like actually really good. But then it just plummets back down to F fucking tier because, oh no, we can't actually express how we feel because that's too controversial. We have to go back to just baiting a relationship for the next 15 fucking years. Like, come on, you can't have a story of a guy and a girl and then be like, it's not a romance story, guys, come on, I swear, even though that's the only plot. Fuck off. Holy shit. Oh my God. So, back to Goodnight Punpun. I think the best way to go through this is I'm just going to scroll through the manga and talk about the things that I see. So, as it happens, they're concerned, Punpun and Aiko are concerned that, oh no, they're going to get found out now because they're looking for Aiko Tanaka, and they just put her name down for a car thing, and they're walking around, and Aiko's like fucking wounds are infected and she's dying, and then Aiko constantly like wavers between like I love you Punpun and I don't want to die. Let's have sex. I do want to die. You want to kill me. I should kill myself. If I kill myself, then you kill yourself. If I kill myself, you don't die. But like, the problem is they never actually have a conversation about like what happens. Like Punpun is just too boring of a character to actually have a conversation. And I thought that that was a stylistic choice. I thought that. Then I went and I read some of the mangaka's other works. If you have Google Books, go type in Inio Asano's name, look at his other works. The script is almost verbatim the exact fucking same for A Girl on the Shoreline. And the behaviors of the characters and writing for Downfall are also very fucking similar. I'm shocked. This guy can't fucking write. I actually, you know what? Maybe that's on me. I didn't actually look it up. I don't know if Inio Asano is the writer. I just know he's the mangaka, so he's like the head guy in creating the manga, and everyone else is like below him, right? But I don't know if he's the writer. I'm assuming he is, but it's strange that all the writing is the same in all of his mangas, that it's pretty shit. Like, the first thing in A Girl on the Shoreline, it has the, running away, and then like, oh, you want this, and then the characters are just, they're just saying the most explicit interpretation of events down to the psychological core without actually having any subtlety at all. And so it's like, I guess if I have to choose between characters explicitly saying all the reasons that why they're doing the things that they're doing and characters not saying anything at all, I guess I would choose the latter, because at least then I can interpret things in a way that's more interesting than the writing's leaving on for me to believe. And that's where we are with Punpun, because I don't think Inio Asano can write. I think he's good at drawing. I like his art style generally. Sometimes the faces don't work, and sometimes the faces look like monkey humans. That is just disturbing. But it's just, it just feels like not like misery porn. Like, there's like a brief hope in the manga where like Aiko's like, oh, did I ever tell you, or do you remember why I wanted to go to Kawagashima or whatever? And I'm pretty sure she didn't tell Punpun this. And then she's like, oh, I have an uncle here, he's a doctor, we can go see him, he'll take care of us or something. And then obviously that doesn't happen. They get like nervous about like a taxi guy. Then they're just walking in the woods, and then like the craziest fucking like sex rape scene happens. Like Punpun's like, no, we got to get out of here, we go into the woods. And then she's just like, no, like, you're gonna kill me, I don't know, I'm scared, I'm gonna kill you. And then like Punpun, like, she's like leaking, I don't know, this is so fucked up looking at, actually. She stabs I forgot about that. She stabs Punpun, and he like never even like does anything about the wound. She like stabs Punpun out of like just insanity. Like, he's like approaching her, and then she like blames him for everything, and then he's like saying, oh, I'll protect you no matter what. And I think he like pulls his hands aren't even on her anymore there. So like she just stabs him while he's like stroking her head. He's not even like gonna choke her or nothing. She just stabs him, and then he calls her a stupid cow, and then he like butt fucks her in the woods. I'm not even shitting you. It becomes like the kinkiest, most fucked up romance I've ever seen in my life. Like, she's like, no, you're gonna kill me, this is all your fault. And then later on, but she just said that it was her fault earlier, I'm pretty sure. Or did she tell him that later? No, she told him that earlier about like killing the mom. And then like she stabs him, and then he's like choking her, I think. And like she's like leaking out of all of her orifices. And if you've seen like Rionin douchins before, this is exactly what it looks like. which I'm not into. I do not find that too attractive. But when you're on 4chan, you end up seeing some fucked up shit. And then she's just like, it's morning time, and she's just like on his dick without like any underwear. So like, what? She's fucking all night. Like, what the literal fuck? Well, excuse me. It's just, it's so insane. It's so stupid. And also the fact that the mangaka doesn't know how feminine hygiene works. I can't excuse that from the last volume. This mangaka just gets worse and worse. The fact that people say this is a masterpiece, the fact that this is number 7 on my anime list, top 10 manga. Holy shit. Now, mind you, I mean, One Piece is on there, so, like, you can't really take that list too seriously. I mean, I genuinely can't respect anyone who looks at One Piece and is like, yeah, this is good. The 1,000 chapters, any story worth telling is worth telling in 100 chapters. And if your story doesn't drastically change after 100 chapters, you're not telling your story properly. That's a fucking truth bomb. God damn it. Like, why is Gantz allowable for me to be my favorite manga and it's over 300 chapters? Well, every 50 chapters, shit's getting fucking wild. Like, and then the main characters change over the course of the story. Like, things get drastically different where we have a whole different plots and we have goals, you know? The problem with Goodnight Punpun is his goals are, everything is like realistic. Everything is like super down to earth. But then the final inciting incident is so fucking ridiculously stupid. You're really telling me, and apparently I read online, I didn't even remember reading this, and I did read the manga a little fast, but I don't remember reading this, that the woman who Aiko was treating as her mom is like her adoptive mom? It's like not her real mom? And you're telling me that this lady, on the drop of a hat, on a whim, is willing to attempted murder somebody. On, like, that's the thing that hangs me up for volume 7 and for volume 6, is that the impetus of the final plot is based on something that's fucking stupid. I cannot get into the story and I cannot get excited for the plot because the thing that's making it happen is fucking stupid. Here's how I would rewrite it. All you need to do is erase Seki and Shimutsu or whatever. Those characters provide nothing to the story. They're absolutely wastes of fucking space. Erase all that shit. And instead, have more time dedicated to Aiko and fucking Punpun and have more conversations surrounding my mom's abusive, I want to get out but I can't leave, things like that. When I got into this manga, I knew 2 fucking things. I knew that 1, here's the big spoiler, I apologize, that Aiko commits suicide at the end of the manga. And 2, that Aiko was abused as a child. Those are the 2 things that I knew. I understood that she was the main character. I understood that she was important. I didn't realize how long the manga was. I didn't realize all these other things, but I always knew that. So the story, the headcanon that I had developed before I even read the manga was that Aiko and Punpun were like, you know, on again, off again in school, and then they met again later in life, but they were both damaged people, and then Aiko tried to like find escape in Punpun, and Punpun, being a weak-willed individual, tried to make that happen for her, and she like kind of convinced him to like kill her mom. But what ends up happening is just it's just all spur of the moment. It's all just stupid and random and very flighty and just makes no sense at all. And those spur of the moment and flightiness makes sense for Aiko's character, but they don't make sense for the plot. We see Aiko's mom character like a few fucking times, just a few times. And Aiko has these weird like bruisings on her back her whole life. So I assume that they're not actual like bruises from being like abused, because they wouldn't stay on your back forever. She must just have like something wrong with her back. I don't know. It's very strange. She just has all these weird marks, kind of like where you kind of like have, I guess you wouldn't have angel wings there, but they kind of look like angel wings spread out on her shoulders, but they're like these like black marks, right? So in order to make that make sense, we need Aiko's mom's character to be in the story more. We need to have her behavior be explainable. Like, when you're writing fiction, you have to be very balanced in having ridiculous things. When your story is so mundane, you have to really justify those ridiculous moments. And I could look, back in volume one, when the Porn Watchers Club found that random porn VHS and that led them to that factory, that was a sign of things to come. That was the height of the contrived bullshit. Or it was of the contrived bullshit that this manga would employ to get the plot moving, even though there is no plot. That's the problem. There's nothing that the characters are trying to accomplish. I mean, we can theorize that, oh, well, they're on the run, they're trying to survive, and then they get the idea after, like, being on the run for multiple days. Aiko's like, oh, by the way, I wanted to go there because my uncle's there. Why didn't she say that day fucking one? That, hey, let's go to my uncle. He'll take care of us, and then maybe we can figure something out. She doesn't say that till, like, day fucking 7 when she has an infested wound and she's fucking got something else going on. Like, really? Don't you, like, just the characters don't behave in a way that makes any fucking sense at all. And now this is where the defense force comes in and they're like, oh, well, they have depression and they have this and they have that. And I can tell you, sorry, I just shook the camera because I'm getting a little mad. But, like, as somebody who had a major depressive episode, halfway through high school leading into my 20s, depression doesn't make you stupid. Like, depression doesn't make you dumb. It just makes you reluctant to engage in life. It depends on how people experience it, Some people are just generally kind of apathetic. They have no hopefulness for things. Some people, they aren't able to enjoy things. They have anhedonia. Some people have thoughts about suicide. Some people have, like, psychological pain that causes the depression from trauma, things like that. There's all sorts of things that cause depression that fall under the depression term. The problem is that in Goodnight Punpun, where Punpun's he's a pretty functional adult. Like, despite whatever mental ailings that he has, which he does have a bunch, the manga presents Punpun as being very debilitated by these illnesses. But the problem is, in this volume, it actually tells us that everything that we believed about Punpun is a fucking lie. Because when Sachi goes... Wait, is it this volume or is that the later one? Or was that the last one? That might have been the last one. I actually forget. I don't even remember. But either way, when Sachi goes and talks to Yoichi and talks to the landlord's daughter, we find out that Punpun has actually been kicking ass. Punpun's been visiting every day. He's bringing toys or whatever, little cat things to the landlord character that he really gets along with. Even the daughter has softened up her attitude, probably because of Punpun. Punpun's been going to driving school, studying for his, realtor's exam. He found women to have sex with. Like, I'm sorry, but if you have, like, depression, those things are incredibly hard to do, and you can do them while depressed, but I don't think the author truly understands depression. I actually roll back everything that I said positively when it comes to mental illness in this manga, because the things that the story tries to tell you happened near the end, in terms of all the things that Punpun's been doing behind the scenes, are total fucking bullshit. It is so fucking hard to just maintain a fucking job when you have, like, depression. So you're telling me that this guy was able to do all this shit? I mean, I don't know. Maybe some mild depression, but, like, there's no way it was that debilitating. And I don't mean to, like, split hairs in terms of, like, it's like this level, this level, this level, but so much of the accolades that this manga gets are because of the mental health stuff. But I don't see it because the manga shoots itself in the foot in regarding to the impact that mental health had on his life. We actually find out that the mental health stuff didn't even really have that much of an impact because he was able to accomplish so much. And sure, that's a testament to whatever goals that he wanted to accomplish. But the goals he wanted to accomplish were just moving forward in life. They really didn't have a motivational purpose. The only one that he really had a goal for was moving to that one area to see Aiko again. And let me get this straight. His whole motivation, like the thing holding him back in life, is just the failed promise to Aiko when he was a kid. Like, he never got over that. Like, this is some Lolita writing. Now, Lolita, the reason Humphrey Hobart, or whatever his name is, wants to have sex with young girls is because when he was a young boy, he was getting intimate with a woman on the beach that was also young. Presumably both of them were underage. And then some swimmers came up and they kind of laughed at him, and he wasn't able to like copulate his romantic feelings in that moment. And so that's the stated reason, is that he wants to basically satisfy that moment in his mind that he wasn't able to satisfy as a child. He wants to do that as an adult, but society frowns on that. And that's kind of fucked up when you're an adult and you want to have sex with children. Now, anyway, I'm not going to get on Lolita. But in Lolita, a lot of the story and plot are synthesized in a way that you can rationalize what the character is doing. And the first thing the main character is introduced doing in Lolita is trying to actualize this feeling by finding prostitutes who look young, like the girl that he was with, so he can like, get his rocks off that way, trying to do that. At least that's what I remember that he was doing. But in Punpun, he constantly breaks promises to other people. Like, he's incredibly flighty and shitty to other people because he only seems like he cares about this one promise. And and he just creates the cycle again because he maintains his promise to Aiko to take her away, finally. But that's then to the detriment of Sachi, who then doesn't go to the abortion place and doesn't get the abortion, and like, he abandons her. And the thing is Punpun could have done both. It didn't need to be one or the other. It's just that the characters are just badly written. They just don't use this. When the problem of your story is that the characters just don't use their words, you have stupid characters. And I'm sorry, but I just don't have as much sympathy for stupidly written fictional characters as the general audience does. I really don't. I can't believe I talked this long already. We got to get further on in the story. So I guess if you want to know the plot, I'm just going to roll through the manga and kind of go over some things and my thoughts on it now. So strap in for that. So yeah, so they go to where Uncle is, and the uncle's not there. And then they reference Higurashi because they're in a small town, and we see like two things about the small town, which are these little banners that say, "Don't destroy our village, no dam construction." And Higurashi, the story for that visual novel, started with, trying to build a dam. So yeah, they go around, and Aiko looks kind of cute and blah blah blah, and then I think they go to like an empty house, and they're kind of talking about like what's going to happen, like, oh, I'll be arrested, but like if you're waiting for me, I can wait for you, blah blah blah. And then like, did you lie that you kill? Oh yeah, then they like ask like, oh, did you kill her? Did I really kill her? And then Aiko's like, no, I really killed her. And then they're hanging out, and then they kind of like talk about the stars that they saw as like kids, that really good panel shot in volume 1 when they're at the factory and they're all holding hands and they're looking at the Milky Way and the stars and the burning up star, the meteor, what do you call them, falling stars? Yeah, or shooting stars, sorry. And then they sit down to go to sleep, and then Aiko tells them like, let's remember each other on Tanabata Day, blah 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 blah. That's a very romantic signifier in sadness porn. I don't know, what do you call it? Like a misery porn stories. There's one of what the fuck is the name? Explosions in the Sky. Like their most famous song is Remember Me as a Time of Day, which is, well, that's gotta be really rough to remember somebody as a time of day, just because then you'd be remembering them every day. That's really hard to get over. But anyway, Aiko's like, let's each remember each other on Tanabata Day. if we're separated, you know, like I guess if they're in prison, but like the idea that Punpun has is he's gonna go to prison, Aiko's gonna be waiting for him, and then he'll get out, and then they'll have their life together finally. And they fall asleep, and earlier they both fell asleep, and Punpun would walk away, and she's like, no, don't leave me, Punpun, you know, you stay near me, blah blah blah, whatever. And so this time Aiko gets up first. Maybe she didn't even fall asleep, but Punpun falls asleep, wakes up, and he's walking around, and then we get the shot. We get the fucking shot that everybody fucking posts online. He's standing there. She's fucking killed herself. She hung herself by the rafters, and this time there weren't any rafters in the rafters to claw at the rope, so she's just fucking dead. I don't quite know this part. She like stuffed her underwear in her mouth. I guess she was afraid of making noise. And then Punpun basically like takes her and just carries her around. It's kind of weird. Then he starts like talking about like the life that he imagined for them, and like how they can go on. And there's like a lot of use of like pictures that are just monochromed to white in this section. There's a lot of like fucking black paneling. Eventually she like falls off, and then he like changes her clothes for some reason. And then they end up like running into some kids, and then the kids, yeah, he just like changes her clothes like by the side of the road. I mean, I guess it's a country place, but like she's just fucking naked. He calls like the emergency services, but then he like hangs up, and then they like run into some kids, and then the kids are like, oh, I need to go get her bag. You guys stay here with her. And it's like she's a fucking corpse, which is this so fucking goofy. And then so he goes and gets the bag and leaves Aiko's corpse with these two kids, and like obviously within seconds they're gonna be like, dude, she's a fucking corpse. And then there's like an ambulance that's shown for like one brief moment. I don't know what a Japanese ambulance looks like. I need to zoom in here. But that definitely has to be like, yeah, oh yeah, that's definitely like lights in the front and back. So that's definitely like a Japanese ambulance. Ambulance. Oh my god, I can't say the word now. You ever have that happen? So like then the thing that they left behind was like this crumpled up note that she put, like you like the notes that you write when you put on a shrine in Japan. She like wrote a note, and Punpun said that she was stupid for writing the note because Punpun's an edgy atheist, and the note says like, I hope that you never forget me, which is like the most depressing thing ever. Like that's pretty rough to commit suicide and be like, never forget me. I don't, I have a lot of like, I have a lot of emotional feelings regarding the sentiment in the manga, but I have a hard time giving the manga the credit that other people do just because of all the aforementioned reasons. Now, something people discuss online is, why does Aiko end up killing herself? Why, like, did she do it because she was like dying? I mean, it's really just like it's like a synthesis of all the reasons, right? Like Aiko has basically nothing in life. Like she's been waiting for Punpun to save her for like a decade, which is also very fucking stupid, very men writing women tier bullshit. Like, I really fucking hate that Aiko was less put together. But there is one scene that actually does still choke me up. In volume 6, I had mentioned how Punpun and Aiko go on a date, and this is when they both are believing the lies that each other has told about themselves. So they both think that they're in relationships. They both think that they're like these better people than they really are. And for Punpun, it doesn't really mean too much for him to like his presentation is just like whatever. He's just like kind of trying to fuck her, but I don't know, his feelings are just stupid. Like he just wavers between wanting one thing and wanting another, and none of them really seem to matter importantly. for the plot at all. But for Aiko, you have to think like that's the part that actually chokes me up. That's the thing that really actually makes me sad. This is the one part of the manga that I have a hard time talking about. It actually makes me really fucking sad to think that like Aiko was lying. She wasn't as happy as she presented. She doesn't have a boyfriend. None of those things are going for her. She works at a job where she's essentially harassed by her coworkers. She gets beat up by her mom, and she probably had to like sneak out and like steal money that she earned that her mom was keeping from her to like buy these clothes that she thought Punpun would like. And like, I mean, it's not just the clothes. I mean, she like, I mean, even like the more intimate aspects of what she, you know, is preparing. Like she never wears that attractive of underwear again in the manga, which is a weird thing to bring up, but like she clearly invested everything that she had money wise to make herself appear to be this image of the person that she was selling to Punpun. Like she wanted to be that person for a moment, and she could, but then it ends up in like basically attempted rape, which is like really fucking sad. Ugh. It's just that part sucks in a good way. That part sucks in a good way. That's the one good part of the manga that I'll give it credit for. I think that scene, with how many times you can go back to it and relook at it, is really fucking good. But anyway, after after Aiko commits suicide, what do you think would be a good thing to bring into the story? Well, it's the Pegasus Club. Yeah, all those stupid idiots that you don't remember the name of. That's what they immediately bring in. And oh god, I've never hated anything more in my life. They're like they're on Punyama planet or some shit. And then there's like a bunch of fucking stars falling, and then it's July 7th, so it's like 5 fucking days later. It's like 5 days later after Aiko's dead, and where's Punpun? I don't fucking know what's he been doing for 5 days. Maybe fucking her corpse or something in the hospital. We don't actually see Aiko die. I mean, presumably she's like fucking dead, right? I mean, she was like on Punpun's back for that long, but like, I saw some people think that maybe she's alive, which is, I don't fucking believe that. I think that would be, if there was a Good Morning Punpun, and it was like the continuation, and Aiko was actually alive, but she had like amnesia, or I don't know how she'd have it. I mean, she would be like brain damaged. Like she would not be able to have as good of a life as before. I don't know. That would be fun. I would love that. This is the one time where I do want a sequel, just because I want to see all the fans get as ass mad as possible. So then there's oh my god, there's so many wasted panels. Punpun's like in the city for some fucking reason. He goes to like the factory. Oh, this part made no fucking sense to me. So he goes back to the miso factory, right? And it turns out that the image that young Punpun saw before the explosion was himself, and he says, "I'm strong now." But what does that even mean? Like, is he saying that like he wasn't strong enough to protect Aiko back then? I mean, he really wasn't strong enough to protect Aiko now as an adult. I mean, but that's like a thematic thing that Punpun says, is that he's strong now. He says, "I'm strong now." I don't quite get that, and I've never really seen anyone kind of dive into that. People generally talk about the surface level shit in Punpun. They don't really talk about like the nitty gritty stuff, which I find to be disappointing. But yeah, he basically goes back to the miso factory where he held Aiko, and there was the big explosion, and then he was like standing there. So I guess Punpun is a time traveler, and then he just like sits down and like he just sits down to like ready to like die, and he like jabs his eye out. like the eye that Aiko was gonna stab out. He jabs that eye out. Oh yeah, and then Midori's pregnant, and then that suicide that the Pegasus guy did only got like 1,000 views on YouTube, so that was stupid. And then, oh my god, the manga keeps cutting all over the place to all these other characters. Finally, Sachi's back in the manga, and then they're going somewhere. They're talking about something. They're doing something, and then Sachi like randomly wants to go to the miso factory because Sachi was the girl who was talking to Seki when Seki's dad owned the miso factory. We actually find out that Seki's life isn't as bad as the manga initially let on, or the author just forgot that his dad was supposed to be like abusive or something. But like Seki's just like a douchebag to his family, even though like I guess he could have had a much better life, but he just didn't engage with his family because he's a fucking cunt. So fuck Seki, he's a dumb asshole. And for some reason, Sachi's like, I want to go back to the miso factory. You can see the stars there. And I mean, she says it in like a thought, words. At some point in this manga, it gets too much for me. And there's just words. It's just all words, but they're not saying anything. Like, my God, the writing is not good. So anyway, Sachi's like, yeah, let's go for the miso factory. I mean, they don't say that let's go to the miso factory. They say, let's just walk a little longer because the manga needs to bait a plot that doesn't exist. For some reason, Shimizu's alive, but he's actually not alive. That's all stupid. The manga baits some like conflict between Punpun's coworker and the girl that he's dating, which is just stupid because they're just side characters who aren't really brought up enough to like really care about the resolution for their arc. Like, Goodnight Punpun could have been very good. I see what they're doing with the ending where they're having all these characters kind of like come into their arcs at the same time of this meteor shower, and it's supposed to be this big rehumanizing moment of like lovers coming together because that's what the Pegasus guy was talking about. But the problem is like I don't really give a fuck about all these characters. And Shimizu is dead, so he can't come together with Seki. Literally, they should have been. They should have been gay too. The author is a homophobe, 100%. Seki and Shimizu should have been gay lovers. Oh man. Anyway, Punpun's just laying there, like he's waiting to die, and he's like finally says "Goodnight Punpun." He title drops the manga near the end. "Goodnight Punpun," and then Sachi's there. And she is just like, get the fuck up, you loser. I'm your mommy dommy. I'm not shitting you. The solution for Punpun's problems is to get a mommy dommy GF who just bosses him around. And unironically, this is actually the solution for his problem. So Sachi just like, just starts like telling him, actually, I guess she doesn't really tell him too. Man, they waste so much time with the paneling. Jesus Christ. But she just tells him to get up, and then he's in the hospital, and she's like, oh, come around, whatever. I don't think they ever end up even dating, but like clearly Punpun is in a pretty close friendship with Sachi because later on he says that Sachi's daughter believes that Punpun is her dad. Yeah, so some really dumb shit happens, and then the manga does like the worst thing ever. Oh yeah, the cops come in, but like Punpun, I guess, only gets like probation because he was like helping like a murderer escape, but they only really have his words. And my name is, that's some weird, I don't know. Anyway, okay. And then Yuichi's child is born, and then for some reason there's like the weird god face in the child's eye, and he's like, yo, I don't know, I just feel like that's the mangaka like shitting on my face at that point. Oh my god, there's so many panels of just black screen. Jesus Christ, talk about like padding. And then so like the final is this the final chapter? No, this is the third from the last chapter, chapter 145. Basically it's Punpun recollecting at the time of Tanabata, so it's been about like a year. No, it's actually been a few years. It has to, because the first thing he says is, I didn't last year, but I wonder if I'll finally get to see the Milky Way this year. So I mean, he definitely saw the Milky Way the year that Aiko died. Right? No. When was I don't know Japanese festivals, so I don't know if he saw the Tanabata. I don't know if I'm even saying that right, but anyway, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been at least a year. We know that much, maybe even two. And he's just like reflecting. This part kind of chokes me up a little bit. This part's a little sad. I'll be honest, because he's reflecting on Aiko, and the script is not good. Again, unfortunately it's not good, but the imagery is pretty good. We see Aiko, and she's going through like, one second. She's going through like these like a circus grounds. Like there's like different kinds of circus rides and like just interesting visual things, but they all look like they're abandoned, and she's just kind of like hiding in the scenery and moving around in places, and like she's like in a train, and it's like some kind of cathedral, and like looking past a sign, and she's just around in the scenery. And this is a little hard. Oh God, I feel like my throat's dry, but at the same time, like choked up a bit too. But I guess you can presume that maybe these are places that Pun Pun went, and he remembers her there. I'm not really sure. Like, we don't see any of this stuff happen. It's just in his memory. And he basically just has like a very limp dick resolve, which is like, oh, like, I guess I'll just keep living because you couldn't kill me anymore. Like, I kind of want to read the last part because I feel like it's not that great, but it's like the one part that kind of tries to tie things up with a bow. So like, Pun because he needs to move forward. Like that's what he says in the manga anyway. Um, but it's really funny because he never reflects on how he feels about her, really. Like he just says things that just don't really ever reveal how he feels, which is unfortunate. And then there's a bunch of beeps which make it seem like either somebody's flatlining, like maybe Aiko's dying or maybe he's dying. But really, I guess it was just the alarm because the beeps stop after he hit it. He hits the alarm, which is lame. I was hoping it was going to be somebody who's dead. And then volume 146 or chapter 146 starts, and they introduce a character who hasn't been in the manga for about 100 chapters. I forget. I don't even remember this character's name. I don't care. This is the this is the cardinal sin of writing any story, is to introduce a new character in the final act, or not in the final act even, but to introduce a character in like the final 10 minutes of your story or whatever is just ludicrous. I mean, I know he's not a new character. I know he was friends with Punpun when he was a kid, but the problem is that you haven't been. This isn't a story about all these kids. This is a story about Punpun. So stop fucking. I don't care about these other characters. I don't care. I cannot be forced to care. I do not give a shit. It's stupid. And the author even writes in an arc for this character in 2 chapters, and it's I don't care. I just don't care about this new character. It's Goodnight Punpun, not stupid friends of Punpun. I don't care about these characters. They're like, a whole chapter is dedicated to this stupid idiot and his own dumb thoughts, and I don't care. And then he runs into Punpun and they're talking, and he doesn't even remember Punpun, but he remembers that they were in the Porn Watchers Club. Like, what the fuck? And then he sees like Sachi is there with like the daughter, and he's like touching the daughter, and then like Sachi tells Punpun the thing that Aiko would tell him, which is don't go wandering out, like don't leave me, basically. And basically she just like orders them around and like, oh, we're leaving, we're all looking for you, which is what Punpun needs. Punpun needs that mommy dami GF. I guess the one guy thought he was married, like Punpun was married to her, but then he says his expression denied it, and I didn't pursue it any further. So Punpun is not married to her, but they're in some kind of relationship. And then the final good shot is Punpun's there with Sachi and the daughter, and then even landlord guy's there, and then the other Punpun's coworker is there with his GF, and some other character who I don't even know who the fuck that is, and then Fat Connie, and then Punpun's like tearing up, and they're like waving goodbye. I don't know, that part was dumb. And then it's like ending with these stupid side characters. Why would you end the manga with side characters? And then it introduces these 2 new children, and it's trying to do this like story repeating again, where like these 2 characters, like they lock eyes, like when Aiko came to Punpun's class and they locked eyes. And then like there's like some little kids, and they're like, what's sex? What's normal? Did you know that humanity is done for? Which is like the things that like the characters were saying in the beginning of Goodnight Punpun, like the kids. And then like that's it. And then like there's like a credit panel. And then there's like an atom bomb mushroom cloud explosion. Not really a mushroom cloud explosion, but like a bulbous cock explosion with Aiko in a field. And the art isn't like even very good. Like, I don't know, it's not very well drawn compared to some of the other stuff, in my opinion. It's a different style, but whatever. And then that's it. That's the ending of the story. Like, what? Why would you introduce so many new characters in the last I don't care about these children. Okay, I'm not an idiot. I get that the cycle of trauma and abuse is a lightly touched on theme in Goodnight Punpun, but the problem is that the theme is not actualized in any way. It's just a means to repeat the plot over and over again of character does bad thing. Like, other than poor sexual, I don't know, boundaries maybe, Punpun isn't that abusive. Like, people talk online like Punpun abused Aiko, but like the only time Punpun hit Aiko was when she was like acting fucking crazy and like bit her finger. And I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess she was like, I don't know what the fuck. That scene was so fucking stupid. I don't know. Once again, that's another forced conflict scene for no reason that makes no sense at all, that is unexplainable. But if you were able to explain any of the shit that I was confused about in this manga, go right ahead. Make me a fool, because I don't know. I think it's really disappointing. The fact that there's no plot is if you're not going to have a plot, you need to have some other thing to hook people. But there's really nothing, unfortunately. It just ends. That's it. Like, the author just ran out of ideas and it just ends. Like, Punpun is now... Like, why do we get the ending? Why did you introduce a new character in the last 2 chapters? I don't care about this stupid guy from chapter 2 and his relationship with his wife and their drama. I do not care. I care about Punpun's story, and I hardly care about that. Why did you introduce these characters? I know he's a friend from when they were kids. I don't care. He hasn't been in the manga for 99.9% of the story. He is a new character. Because guess what? He's not the same child he was. He's grown up. He's completely different. And you know what? If you're telling me that the reason, like, some people have said, like, oh, this character, he kind of shows you how, like, you know, Punpun's life could have been different if other things in his life were different. And if the story is about how our lives are beyond our control because of our environment, then I'm sorry, that's obvious. Any person with an IQ above fucking room temperature knows that, like, the kind of parents you're born to, the environment you're in, the school, like, your geography determines more about the kind of life you have than pretty much anything else. And the income bracket you're born into determines more than anything else in your life that you can have any control over. So, like, if you're going to make that statement, then you have to kind of tell 2 competing stories. But in this manga, the other competing story we don't see for 99.99 to the infinite level until the beginning and end. And we never see his home background that justifies that character's experiences. The character who turned out more well-adjusted. Like, and he's so not well-adjusted that he can't even say things that upset him. Like, he's a fucking idiot. Like, I don't know. Is that really the emotional arc? Is just saying, when person is mean to me, I don't like it? Like, that's your emotional arc for the final fucking chapter? Holy shit. For us, fuck off. Fuck this. I don't know. I don't respect anybody that thinks this manga's good. I'm sorry. You're just fucking dumb. Well, that's it. Somehow I talked about this for 50 fucking minutes. Holy shit.